Yeah, so John will be there tomorrow night. As you know, I'll be at the draft party.
All right. All right, here we go.
Buffalo After Dark is proud to recommend I Barbecue for You. Pre-orders are suggested by calling 716-880-7667. I Barbecue for You, Buffalo's new barbecue destination.
Just move the coyotes. Don't do another expansion.
Right? It never crossed my mind. So somebody called the house when I was out mowing the grass.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Holy shit, your face is like purple.
Are you still up? Now in their fifth season, it's Buffalo After Dark.
Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is Thursday night, June 26th. Of course, we're going to be here tomorrow night also because of the NHL draft. And before we get into a lot of fun stuff, because I'm in a pissed off mood today after some of the things that happened late last night that, of course, dumbass Kevin Adams didn't want us to learn about, let's say hi to Hanson.
What's up, Tom? How are you tonight?
Let's just say I brought the beer because I'm going to fucking need it. After the crap we saw yesterday.
Oh God, I honestly, I personally do not blame you in this situation, like at all. I don't blame you.
Yeah, I actually found this for the first time in a while. Kugel's Summer Shandy. I actually picked up a 6-pack of that, so it's good stuff. It's like a lemon flavor stuff, a beer, kind of like Sam Adams Summer Ale in a lot of ways.
Really, because I'm not a big alcohol guy, as you know.
I usually don't drink too much either, but yeah, today's an exception to that. So, but anyways, we'll be here for a little while, so if you want to give us some comments, want to talk about some of the things that happened last night as a Sabres fan, you want to talk about the misery of a Sabres fan, including some of the things I heard on GR this morning, where even a 50-year plus season ticket holder decided enough's enough. Feel free. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. And if you want to see some of our past episodes, of course, go to Spotify and you'll find us there. But last night was interesting because of the fact that it was all smoke and mirrors by Kevin Adams saying, "Oh, JJ Peterka and I had a great conversation. We were very open and honest about things. He wants to be back. He enjoys it here." Well, JJ Peterka is no more because Kevin Adams decided to be a dumbass, trade him to the Utah Mammoth. Instead, he ends up bringing back Michael Kesselring and Josh Doan, and of course, no picks ended up getting swapped. So then on top of it, JJ Peterka immediately signed a 5-year, $38.5 million contract, which is worth about $7.7 a year. And he would have been an RFA on July 1st, which, guess what? Kevin Adams, you had full control of what he wanted to do and decided instead to be like, "Oh, well, go enjoy Salt Lake City because even though there's no palm trees out there, it's Mormon country. You'll probably enjoy the fact that it's like dry, like counties or whatever out there." But instead, the more I thought about it today, well, obviously, I was pissed off about it last night. I'm still pissed off about it because here he is, a top 6 forward that you have. Now, on the flip side, Michael Kesselring, I am glad we did get him at least because a right-handed defenseman is tough to come by. Josh Doan, we haven't seen his full emergence yet. But on the flip side, Kevin Adams, why the fuck did you not get the 4th overall pick in the first round if you're trading your top 6? Jesus Christ, Kevin! It's like you decided to trade. It's like the equivalent of trading Peterka away for nothing. You had the leverage to get the 4th overall pick. At the very least, you could have swapped the 9th pick for the 4th. But instead, you give up one of your top 6 forwards.
No, I love the comment
What the fuck? I mean, and then of course the front office. Oh, would you like season tickets? Fuck no, I don't want season tickets. You can take them and shove it up your ass.
Tell us how you all feel, really. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, listening to WGR this morning actually it was interesting because there was a 50+ year season ticket holder that said enough's enough, he's done. And then of course Kevin Adams to come out and be all arrogant about it and act like he knows more than everybody else. No, Kevin, you're one of the dumbest GMs that's ever been here. And if Pagula had half a fucking brain, he would have actually gotten rid of your ass 3 years ago. But instead, no. Here we are at season number 6. And of course, none of the coaches got fired. All of the assistants came back. And even though Lindy Ruff could fire them, he didn't. And here's one question I want to know. Where the fuck was Jarmo Kekalainen last night?
Oh, I don't know. He was probably drinking too much, too much European drinks, I guess. I mean, I feel so bad for you because of the fact that, for one, you have to not only deal with Kevin Adams' bullshit, and you also have to deal with Terry Pagula. The fact that these two guys are so, like two peas in a pod together, but it's all for the wrong reasons. And the fact that the Sabres didn't even bother signing him to an extension, knowing full well that they had the cap for him, they said, nah, fuck it, we're not going to sign him.
Yeah, we have the cap space. It's like Peterka is somebody you drafted. He's somebody that you had play in Rochester. He's someone that developed. He's been doubling his point total virtually every single year for the 3 years he's been up here. And you don't sign him?
It's just
What?
laughable. I'm sorry.
Yeah, first it's like you got rid of Dylan Cousins and went to Ottawa, and the thing is, Cousins actually did want to be here. Now you got Peterka out of here, goes to Utah, and basically now with what Utah is doing, our friend Brad in Kentucky is chiming in. He says, "Here, the Mammoth win the Cup this year." Well, they're a hell of a lot closer than we are.
Oh,
and,
Jesus Christ!
And now you still have Jack Quinn, who hasn't done a damn thing.
Oh yeah, and I swear, being a Sabres fan, because I feel bad for you at this point, I at least escaped this. I swear, being a Sabres fan is like communism because you can't escape it, no matter how gaslighting they truly are. And you know what? My favorite thing about this whole ordeal is a comment that there were two things I want to point out. The first one is a commercial that I saw for the draft by the Buffalo Sabres because I still get some of their shit on my feed.
Mm-hmm.
One of the commercials was with, and you may have seen this, is the one with Jeremiah Crow and Marty Biron. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that commercial came up on my feed, and the cringe, that commercial really did not sit well with me. And the fact that I had to sit there and watch it, I was just like, oh my God, did Buffalo really get that cringy? Because then you have Marty Biron going, hey, Sabretooth, you want to go to Orchard Park? You want to go to One Bills Drive? You want to see Josh Allen? What does that have to do with the Sabres?
Right, nothing. And here's the thing, when you look back at Peterka on the games that he had here, so he was selected number 34 overall in 2020. In the games that he's been with us, which he played 238 games, he had 67 goals, 83 assists for a total of 150 points. That's a lot of production you're giving up. But then, here's what Bill Armstrong said. So, of course, for anyone who follows hockey, Bill Armstrong is a GM of the Utah Mammoth. And basically he said, quote, if you want something really great, you got to give up something at the end of the day. And we do have a lot of good picks coming through the door that are from previous drafts. So that's a good thing. Dmitry Simashev and Daniil are walking through the door. But you always have to weigh where you are in the build and where you're going. And then he also then moves on to say, quote, and I think where we're going, we needed somebody in the top two lines that could put the puck in the net, and they could have that ability to have that kind of have impact. So we had to give up two really good players to do that. I think on our side of it, we're excited about the age of the player, the term of the contract, the average annual value, and the impact that he can have. So, translation, Utah just got a hell of a lot better. Now, granted, the thing with Peterka, and really thinking about it a little bit further, I mean, offensively, great. Defensively, he was a little bit of a liability. Now, could he have worked a little bit on that? Sure. But then, with what you get back in Michael Kesselring and Josh Stone, well, Josh Stone isn't exactly proven, so the jury's out on him.
He's
Granted,
definitely not Shane Doan for sure.
yeah, he's not Shane Doan. Michael Kesselring, and at least we got him back because who knows? Maybe Owen Power can finally get his head out of his ass and finally learn how to play defense for a change. But at the same time, maybe pair him with Kesselring and that'll be good. We have another like actual decent combination. But at the same time, I'm like, Kevin Adams, why didn't you like raise the stakes a little bit and go after that fourth pick?
But you know what's even more pathetic is the other thing. I didn't even get to the second part about what I was going to say. And that is that if you saw his pre-draft press conference, Kevin Adams had the audacity with a straight face, and I just had to sit back and laugh because of how fucking stupid this sounds. Is
Mm-hmm.
that he pretty much goes out and says, "You know what? I feel bad for our fans." But then
Yeah,
then you had the audacity to trade one of your best players for nothing. How dare
exactly.
you?
Exactly. And I saw that clip that you're talking about, and he's like literally staring. He's like has this big ass smirk on his face. I'm like, I would have slapped the shit out of him.
Okay, I'm gonna say this now before I forget. Kevin Adams is so bad at his job, he's making Mike Milbury look competent.
Yeah, that's bad.
And hello, Mike Milbury traded Roberto Luongo for fucking Oleg Kavaja and Mark Parrish, mind
Right.
you. That's also the same fucking douchebag that thought it was a good idea to trade Zdeno Chara and Bill McColt for Alexei fucking Yashin. And then on top of all
Oh
that,
yeah, I remember that.
oh yeah, and how about trading Roberto Luongo? Oh wait, I already said that. Yeah,
Right.
no, I have a better one. How about trading Todd Bertuzzi for Trevor Linden? How did that work out, Islander fans? How did that work for us, huh?
Yeah. It's
Fucking
like
asshole.
it's like Earth to Terry Pagula, what do you need from your fans to finally get the fucking message to fire his ass? And on top of it, what do you need? What else do you need from the fans to finally get to understand that we want sustainable hockey?
Well, I will say is you because you read Bill Armstrong's press release about the trade. I'm going to read the one that Kevin Adams sent out, and I
Oh
want you to see
Jesus.
if you. And I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to see if you, with your ears,
Mm-hmm.
if you see what's wrong with this picture.
Yeah.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
One of our priorities as we work through this offseason is making our team more competitive and tougher to play against. The additions of Michael and Josh will help us tremendously in both of these categories, and I'm excited to see them in a Sabres uniform soon. Michael fits the mold of the right-handed defenseman we have been looking for, and we are thrilled the size that he brings up both the size and to compete, and we believe that he will help add balance to the blue line while elevating the rest of the D corps. Josh is a player that has shown the ability to win at multiple levels and brings great leadership pedigree to our organization. His vocabulary is horrible, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He's a strong two-way player who we believe will be able to provide versatility to our group. Now, because I read that statement, what is wrong with this picture?
A, he's an idiot. B, Josh Stone is nowhere even close to the production that Peterka had. C, on top of it, he's basically telling the fans, fuck you, I know better than you, so just, take it up the ass and deal with it.
Well, that's not what I was aiming for. What I was aiming for is he did not say thank you to JJ Peterka for his 3 or 4 years in Buffalo. Because when you trade a player, normally in any sport, you'd
Mm-hmm.
say thank you to so and so for being
Right.
part of the community. We wish you all the best. Kevin Adams didn't even bother doing that.
Right. So it makes me wonder, like, the whole thing about how he says, oh, yeah, him and Peterka had a great conversation and they get along well. He just basically proved right there he's full of it because obviously they didn't. And it sounds like Peterka told him the truth about a lot of things, and Kevin Adams doesn't want to know the truth.
Yeah, and what's even scarier is there was a quote that came out the night before the, or actually, I found a quote within 7 hours before the trade happened. It's this this quote came out around 6:30, or it might have happened throughout the day. So there was an interview with Jeff Merrick on the Crossing Swords podcast, and
Mm-hmm.
one comment he said was, "I was told by someone that they think Terry Pagula has signed off onto the idea of trading JJ Peterka. If they do that, or if they go in that direction, which we all think it will." And guess what happens around 11:30 at night? JJ Peterka goes to the Utah Mammoth.
Jeez.
Jesus Christ.
I know. It is nuts. And a lot of the reaction across X and across all of the other media platforms are basically Kevin Adams is a dumbass. And fans are pissed. And you have every right to be pissed off at the Sabres right now. Every right. Because guess what? That set back the rebuild a little bit further. Let's just pack it in now. We're not going to the playoffs again for our 15th year.
Well, what do you think's gonna happen with fucking Bowen Byram? Because I've already
Oh
heard
yeah, he's
rumors
gone.
that yeah, he's most likely gone because Pagula is almost becoming most likely the worst GM. Well, not worst GM, the worst owner, and not just in hockey, but possibly in all of Buffalo. Because
Mm-hmm.
he to right to me, and I said this when he bought the Bills, is the minute he bought the Bills, whew,
Oh
he
yeah.
was gonna just destroy the Sabres. And what's really sad is I called this. I called it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and apparently Utah was not the only one in on trying to get Peterka either, because on a lot of reports that were out there, and I think even you mentioning this earlier today, the Minnesota Wild had offered Rossi for Peterka straight up.
Yeah, well, no. The context of that, and I actually read this. I read the same report. The deal was is that Minnesota was willing to give more assets in the trade, not just for Marco Rossi, mind you, but other assets, including a first round pick, another prospect, because the player the Sabres wanted in the deal with Rossi was Brock Fader, and the Wild were not willing to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think personally, the only reason why I think that they rejected this trade was because Kevin Adams, deep down with his insecurities as the most incompetent GM in hockey, he knows deep down that he fucked up when he drafted Jack Quinn over Marco Rossi. And you were
Mm-hmm.
screaming this. You wanted Marco Rossi. And
Mm-hmm.
look what happened. Marco Rossi is now available for trade, and the Sabres are not going to take him because Adams would have felt like a dumbass. The Florida Panthers got guys that they wanted to get, but they couldn't do it in the draft, so they made a
Mm-hmm.
trade. Perfect example. Yeah, they had the first overall pick. They got Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah,
They couldn't get Sam Bennett. They couldn't get Sam Reinhart, but all three of them all won the Stanley Cup
yeah,
together.
yeah. They're all playing there, and he went and got Bennett within 2 years after the draft.
So what's the deal? I don't understand. Like, Sabres fans, please help me out here. What is going on with you guys? I don't understand the logic behind everything that this man has done. And I've kept close with you guys for a very long time. It's the idea that you have an incompetent owner who's not willing to spend money because it's very abundantly clear to me that he still has scars mentally from 2011 and he still doesn't want to talk about it, which is
Mm-hmm.
really like extremely criminal in my opinion to say that, oh, I run a professional sports franchise, but I'm going to put all my money into one team but not the other. How does that even fucking work?
Yeah. In fact, actually, here's a reply on X that someone had, and this is from the user Just a Hand in a Frog Puppet. They ended up saying the Sabres are the Bengals of the NHL.
No, I have a better one. They're the
Ooh.
Browns.
Oh
They're the
God.
Browns. Well, I actually have a better comment. And this is the one that I wrote. And this one it says, Islanders fan here. Imagine a team so goddamn stupid that they just traded one of the best young stars in the league for a bag of beans and name recognition. I'm sorry, Sabres fans. You deserve better.
Yeah. And then here's another comment that actually came out. It's it's because a small center who got bullied in the playoffs is not a need for the Sabres. They need to be tougher to play against. But I agree, this trade should have brought more back, at least one more piece.
Yeah, okay. With Kevin Adams at the helm? No, no fucking way.
Yeah.
No chance in hell that was going to happen.
Oh God. I was gonna say if the two of us were running this team right now, A, this would have never happened. And B, if Kevin Adams by some chance was lucky to be here, if the two of us were to take over the team, if it even got to that and he tried to pull that, I would have been like, oh, press conference. Oh, by the way, Kevin Adams, here, publicly, you're fired.
Jesus Christmas. I don't understand. But again, why doesn't this oh god. Why are the Sabres trying to one up the Islanders here? Like and you know what's even crazier is that you mentioned who was it that was interested in JJ Peterka? You said the Wild were
Yeah,
interested?
the Wild.
Yeah, so you had the Wild, the Blackhawks, the Rangers, who were the most interested, and the Islanders. And you know what's even crazier is the Islanders even offered Noah Dobson, and
Mm-hmm.
even by that point, which to me is
Yeah, and I would have taken him too.
That's a fair deal. And Adams says no.
Adams has no clue on how to manage a team. And actually, I almost have to think Tim Murray, at least he went after big players. He just had bad contracts. Botterill, at least he tried to start a rebuild, but didn't go the right direction. Instead, focused all on Rochester. Adams, on the other hand, has his head so far up his ass that he has no clue on what he's doing from day to day.
Oh,
It's like, literally, I would almost take Botterill or Murray over Adams.
yeah, I have something to tell you. And this just came out from The Athletic. And is being said right now, according to The Athletic, is that the New York Islanders are entertaining trade discussions with Noah Dobson. And there are two front runners. One is the St. Louis Blues, and the other one is the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay, listen to me right now. If you're gonna get Noah Dobson out of Long Island. And you know what's even scarier? You know how
Mhm.
JJ Peterka was saying, oh, I want out of Buffalo, which is fair because
Yeah.
who the fuck would stay there anyway, especially how bad they are.
Right, at
You
this
know what's
point.
really crazy?
Mhm.
You know how much money Noah Dobson is demanding from the Islanders?
What is that?
Take a wild guess. Guess how much he's asking for?
Less than 3 a year?
Money. Money.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like 3 mil average annual value?
No, higher.
5?
Higher.
8?
Higher.
10?
Higher.
You fucking kidding me?
He
You know,
wants
8?
$11 million.
Oh, God.
Yeah, here's the problem with Noah Dobson. This is the problem that Islander fans have to come to reality with, and I could grasp on this. Noah Dobson is a good defenseman. There is no question about him. However, in his own soul, he's the equivalent of Dylan Cousins. He doesn't play defense in the goaltender's crease. He doesn't play defensively well in his own zone. He's a good offensive defenseman, but he's a massive liability. Who the fuck goes out of his way and says, you know what, Islanders? I want $11 million. You're not Cale McCarr, okay?
Right.
Cale McCarr is the only defenseman right now in the NHL that deserves that kind of money. Not Noah Dobson, who has not done anything or proven shit to get
Right.
$11 million. No fucking way Darsh is going to sign him to that contract. If Montreal wants to pay him that, fine. I have no problem with that at all. If St. Louis wants to pay him that money, fine. I have no fucking issue with
Right.
that at all. Minnesota is another team, and I'm glad you brought them up earlier because I forgot to say this too. The Minnesota Wild are also talking to the Islanders about JG Pajot.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, this is going to become a serious problem because listen, I have heard recently, I don't know how accurate it is, so take this with a grain of salt. The Canadians have two back-to-back first-round picks. They have the 13th overall pick, and I believe the 14th overall pick, if I'm not mistaken. The Canadians have two first-round picks back-to-back. There is a rumor going around that the Canadians are willing to trade away at least one of the first-rounders to the Islanders. And if that's the case, they can use that as leverage going into tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, now, I was also looking at a little bit more on this whole trade with Peterka going to Utah, and apparently Kesselring and Doan are actually pretty close because they are actually roommates in real life. So that was actually mentioned on NHL.com. So they lived together for the last 2 years, but here's the issue. If I'm Kevin Adams, Kesselring is in the last year of his deal. So
Yeah.
now, is he going to wait and sing Kumbaya and hope that Kesselring will want to stay here? Or is he going to wait, sit on his ass, do nothing, and Kesselring walks?
I have a very hard time imagining that they're going to really trade Michael Kesselring in a year from now and say, oh, I want it for a third rounder. Because if you're not going to pay JJ Peterka, what makes me think that they're going to pay him?
Right, exactly. And that's the concern I have. And basically with having 1 year left on a 3 year entry level deal, like in terms of what he's got going on right now. And plus, the other thing is Doan, I think, only has 1 year left too. So what are you gonna do? Lose two players?
It's disgusting. It's really disgusting because you have two teams. One that at least can make the playoffs, not this year,
Mm-hmm.
but can, but they're never good enough to make it deep far in the playoffs. And you have another one that's a cycle that just consistently cycles the same shit with no direction whatsoever.
Right.
You don't change assistant coaches, which Sabres fans have been gaslighted into oblivion about. You've been gaslit by your own general manager. You've been gaslit by your own owner. And on top of all that, you got fucked over. You got
Yeah.
fucked.
The bottom line is Bill Armstrong fleeced the Sabres.
Well, I mean, that's not
It's
surprising.
not even close.
No, and that's not even the last thing the Sabres are going to be doing. If anything, they're going to probably trade Bowen Byram. Hell, I wouldn't even be surprised if he gets traded tomorrow night during the first round,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in the second round. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe during the summer.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, Pagula is not willing to change. He will never change. As long as he's owner, he will continue this cycle into the family. And the Sabres are going to be fucking garbage. And I hate saying that about you guys, because I
Mhm.
like you guys. However, this whole ordeal is maddening. It's sick.
It is. Yeah. And here's the thing. If I'm Kevin Adams and Jarmo Kekalainen tells me, no, don't do this deal, and I still do it anyways, it's like, what does he think? That, oh, well, Kekalainen, yeah, he's just an advisor, but I don't have to do anything he says. I'm the GM. I overrule him.
Yep. So there's more information coming out about Noah Dobson, mind
Okay.
you. Oh, God bless my fucking soul. Because remember last week's episode, I said I would rather prefer to keep Alex Romanoff over
Yeah.
Noah Dobson.
Of course.
And the rumor with Boston was going to be coming into play.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris Johnson from Sportsnet made this comment, and he also writes for The Athletic. He said the Islanders made an attempt to sign him, but it's now appearing the defenseman could be on the move. According to Johnson, the Canadians and the Blues, who I mentioned earlier, are among the teams that have engaged in trade discussions with the Islanders. At this stage, it's unclear whether the situation lands, and the process is described as admissible, and Dobson will be eligible to sign an offer sheet if he remains with the team without a contract when free agency markets on Tuesday.
It's going to be an interesting couple of days, man.
Like, seriously? Matthew Darch is not an idiot. He's
Right.
not paying that dude $11 million. For me, when he said $11 million, dude, that's translation for I don't want to be here.
Right. Yeah, and you know what? And that's crazy. So it's one of those things where, tomorrow is going to be an interesting night to say the least. I know you're going to be at the draft party down in your neck of the woods. And
Yes.
then of course, we'll have to see what the Sabres actually decide to do at 9th overall, because we were stupid and didn't get the 4th overall, which we should have had at least one more asset come back.
I would have said that if I were GM, I would have demanded for a second, maybe a conditional first. That's what I would have done.
Mm-hmm. At least get something part of it.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
I sorry, but the Sabres fans, I feel bad for you. You guys, with your competent ownership and your competent GM, their actions just makes me want to throw up.
Yeah, it's pathetic. So basically with this, it's like the way I look at it, Kevin Adams, you're absolutely a fucking incompetent GM and you deserve all the hate that you're getting right now. And if you think that's like, oh, well, I know better than the fans. I know what I'm doing. You have no fucking clue what you're doing. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah, really. And on top of all that, he had the audacity to say, well, there are no palm trees in Buffalo. Oh, I feel bad for our fans. Kevin, shut the fuck up. Do not ever go into that office ever again. And that's coming from somebody who is on the complete opposite end of what is happening. You know what I mean? Like, it is the complete opposite of what I would be saying right now. Because at least with the Islanders, they're getting some sort of decency. They're at least exploring their options.
At least they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying. Because here's what's going to happen. They're going to draft Matthew Schaefer tomorrow, and I'm calling it. They're going to make a trade with Utah tomorrow, and the Islanders will trade back into the top 5, and they're going to take James Higgins. If it doesn't happen, so be it. But I'm firmly confident at this point that they're going to do it.
Yeah. So tomorrow night, of course, we'll be live when the draft is on. I know you'll jump on a little bit later. We'll have some people on tomorrow night as well. So, of course, usually we go for the full first round. So we'll be here for a few hours, which will be nice. And who knows, maybe we'll open up the phone line for the first time in a while too. We'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
that being said, there's a lot of other NHL news that ended up happening, and one of them is the talks between McDavid, his agents, and the Edmonton Oilers are already ongoing because there might be a possibility he may not want to stay with the Oil as the time goes on. Because obviously, after this trip to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they got smoked by Florida again, um, you have to wonder, is he truly happy being in Edmonton? And I don't think he is.
Right. But the way I look at it is that Connor McDavid was very specific about his future. Because keep in mind, he's an unrestricted free agent
Mm-hmm.
next summer, not this summer, next summer, 2026. And a while ago, it was said that he's going to say that he'll take his time on reflecting on the season, then talk things over with his agent before making any, life changing decisions. And one thing he did say, he said, this core has been together for a long time and we've been building to this molded. With that being said, ultimately, I still need to do what's best for me and my family. But of course, there's unfinished business here. Winning is the most important thing, and I feel there's a good window here to win in Edmonton. Then signing is no problem. I'm not in a rush.
Mm-hmm. So whether McDavid stays, whether he goes, who knows? But they've had some pretty good runs as of late. I mean, Edmonton, they just have to improve on the goaltending side of things, and their D has to get better.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because Edmonton really can't do a whole lot because the majority of that money is coming from Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when you have a lot of that money wrapped up in essentially three players, I mean, there's only so much you can do, and that's really going to be one of the big things that comes out. So obviously, we'll take a look at that. But then it's also going to get interesting because the NHL is close to the new 4-year CBA extension, and there's going to be some changes that are part of that. And it could go into effect as soon as 2026 or 27, according to Sportsnet. And Elliot Friedman had also ended up reporting that the NHL and the NHLPA are not that far apart on the agreement. So one of the things that we could see as part of it, the preseason gets shortened down to 4 games instead of the normal 6 to 8 that we see. And the regular season moves up to 84 games.
What I will say is that there is a lot of fat on this new CBA. So let's get right down to it. So it's likely being said that the CBA will be announced tomorrow at the Board of Governors meeting before the draft. And it's being said that it's likely going to be a 4-year deal and it will run till 2030, which is 5 years, including this coming year. So the new CBA is being finalized, and it's looking like 84 games, as you just said, starting at 26 27. The preseason will be shortened to 4 games, and then players over 1,000 games, or I'm sorry, players over 100 games can play in a maximum of 2 games. That's okay, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Then he also said that the maximum player contract length shortens to 7 years, 6 at most in free agency, because the current CBA is 8 years.
Right.
And then when you're a free agent, it's 7. So there's that. New comprehensive playoff salary cap system, which is closing in LTIR loophole.
Yep.
So that's going to be a huge win for the NHL.
Oh, yeah. Good old Edmonton using that quite a bit, as well as some other teams.
Tampa, Vegas, the list goes on.
Yep.
Let's see. Draft pick signing rights to draft pick signing rights to universally expire at the age of 22, regardless of the league. So, in other words, if you have a player who's unsigned that's within your system and he turns 22, he could very well say, "I don't want to be here. I want to, either get moved or whatever." There's always a signing rights. He also said that deferred salary is now banned.
Okay, so that's going to make it a little bit easier for teams to manage that.
Absolutely.
In some ways.
He also said that significant increase to the Stanley Cup playoff bonuses pool fund is going to nearly double.
Yeah, so, I mean, are there some good things with managing the cap and different things in this case? Sure. I like the fact that at least, preseason shortens down a little bit. You'll have a couple more regular season games. That's a big plus. The LTIR loophole is going to be closed up finally, so that'll be good. So it should allow, for things to be a little bit more competitive, I think, in that sense.
Yeah, that's pretty unique, you know. He also said that he's going to establish a full-time emergency backup goaltender within teams. So, in other words, instead of having to say, "Oh, we have to desperately get a goalie," get a Zamboni driver who works for an opposing team, Toronto.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
AJ.
everyone can remember that, the time the emergency goalie actually won.
Yeah, and one of the few changes too is that no more team mandatory game day dress codes for players. So, in other words, instead of going into games in a suit, you could
Hmm.
dress up as however you want. You have more freedom to express yourself rather than that boring accent like, "Oh, I have to be a professional all times."
Right, right.
Yeah.
So that's good. That brings it more into the modern era.
Well, I definitely think so for sure. And one other thing that I did not mention yet, well, there's two actually, is the World Cup of Hockey got announced in the CBA bargaining agreement.
Hmm.
And he said that the World Cup of Hockey will take place in 2028, and it's going to be an eight-nation tournament, which is expected to feature a round robin and quarterfinal games in two host cities. Sounds like the pandemic with the bubble.
Hmm.
Um, Two host cities, the semifinals and the finals in one city, and the games will cost for 12 days and 17 games.
Ooh, all right.
That is a lot of hockey.
It is.
Oh yeah. And apparently too, another thing that's in the CBA is the league minimum salary will also increase from 775K to 1 million by the end of the 4th year CBA.
Okay, interesting. All right, so again, a little bit more for the players to work with, which is not a bad thing.
Yep. And Frank Saravalli pointed this out too. And this is all financial stuff. He also said that in the new CBA, he said that um, it'll be more stringent contracts for players. So here's an example. So a signing bonus for in terms of money will now be limited to just 60% ceiling. For example, if an annual average value on the deal is 10 million, max is going to be the SB and any 1 year deal is 6 million, right?
Hmm.
It used to be everything minus league minimum salary with eligible for the salary base players which can still get more in the salary base now, but anything beyond 60% will be subjected to a buyout calculation.
Okay. Okay.
So that's a very interesting concept. Where's the other one I found? Because I have a couple of things about the CBA, and I think it's very interesting. Elliot Freeman said the new CBA could also allow some first round picks from the CHL to have AHL eligibility earlier than they're currently allowed to.
Okay. That's interesting too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Frank Zaravelli also said, da, 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 da. Oh, I already said all that. Never mind. I thought I did, but um, yeah. So basically, like I said, this new contract will go into 2030, and it's a 4 year deal. And the side contains from Frank on some pertinent details on the new agreement as well. So awesome, in general. But there's one piece I still haven't mentioned yet in the new
Hmm.
CBA is expansion. That's
Yes. So Atlanta might be getting their third NHL team.
well, not just Atlanta, but Arizona and Houston and Atlanta and Quebec City.
Why are they going back to Arizona?
Because you know the answer to this question.
Yeah. Because
You already
Bettman
know.
is stuck on stupid.
Yep, and Quebec City is also being thrown around.
Good. They should be. They should have been around a long time ago.
Well, apparently from the original tweet from Darren Drager, he said that the NHL board's meeting, with ongoing speculation around Atlanta, expect a general report on who has approached the NHL and from where. Atlanta is not the only one, and nothing is more than an update at this point. So we already know, because I mentioned a few weeks ago about the new stadium at Forsyth County in
Hmm.
downtown of Atlanta. Once that stadium gets approved and once that goes to the Board of Governors, which I expect it to, there's going to be a 33rd team in the league, and it's going to be Atlanta. But I think because of the 84 game schedule, this leaves the window of opportunity for more expansion down the road.
Hmm. Right. Especially you have more games. You're going to have and plus you're going to have to make sure that the conferences even out. So obviously you're going to have to balance that out, and so you're going to get at least an additional team. You would get a 34th team, and then possibly, like you're saying, have like teams 35 and 36 in the league. So then this way you're balancing out the Eastern and the Western Conference.
Yeah, and that's how it's supposed to be. Because I think in the end of the decade, well, in the 2030s, I think the end game is for the NHL to have 40 teams in the NHL.
Okay. Which, I mean, they're getting ever so closer to that. I just worry about, is it going to dilute the product too much? That's the one thing I kind of worry about. But then again, if you have 20 teams per conference and you could set up divisions similar to what we had in the 80s and the early 90s in that sense, more so than what we have now, it could make for some very interesting rivalries and we could see some interesting matchups come back.
Right. And in a sense, I could certainly say from multiple sources because Kevin Weeks actually said this. He said through multiple sources, he said the Ottawa Senators sale is for 1 billion in U.S. dollars. The Tampa Bay Lightning sale is 1.8 billion in U.S. dollars. A new Canadian media deal is at 7.7 billion in U.S. dollars, and a new CBA extension is coming close, which is probably going to likely get signed. The
Hmm.
price for a potential NHL expansion is on the rise. Are as interested in parties what he quotes as franchise valuations are skyrocketing. So
Right.
realistically, we're probably looking at maybe four teams that are going to be coming in the next decade or so. Atlanta being one, Quebec City, Houston, Arizona. I think that's going to be the key factor here.
Right. Or if it's not ultimately Arizona, does Portland get a team possibly? You could have a really good Pacific rivalry there with Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, and then look at LA.
Yeah, I mean the possibilities are there because I think what they're really trying to do is the NHL is trying to expand their market because they know the NBA is going to be expanding with the Seattle Supersonics. I would
Hmm.
imagine pretty soon. Baseball with the National Stars Project, that's been brought up a handful of times. The NFL was talking about doing it for years, but I don't know if they're even in the conversation to expand at this point. It's like, it's
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, and possibility of Tampa moving to Orlando. So I mean, there is always that rumor still going around. So there's a lot of interesting things that could come out of it. But on top of what we have in the CBA, there were some trades that came up over the past week, and actually one of the big ones, Edmonton. They didn't waste any time. They actually ended up shipping Evander Kane over to the Vancouver Canucks, and basically in exchange, they ended up getting a fourth round pick. So with that, the Oilers ended up clearing off 5.125 million off the books. And from there, it's one of those. I mean, yes, it gives Edmonton a lot of cap space. Vancouver will actually have a player that they can build around, which is good. He can definitely help them in some different aspects. But it was just interesting that they ended up deciding to deal him very quickly. And what had happened is he had gone to Edmonton in 2021 after over 3 seasons with San Jose. And of course, he was with the Sabres prior to going to San Jose. So part of the thing with Kane, though, is he had a lot of injuries and he actually missed the regular season in 2024-25. So, I mean, I don't blame Edmonton for getting rid of him and deciding to make that trade. But just to kind of give you an idea of some of the injuries he had two torn hip abductor muscles, two hernias, two torn lower abdominal muscles, and he also had knee surgery.
Well, it's okay. This trade does not make any sense because, for one, JT Miller just got traded from the Rangers back in February, right?
Mm-hmm.
So JT Miller gets traded. Everyone knows this at this point.
Right.
But the Canucks are willing to take on a player that's a bigger cancer than JT Miller.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Right. And apparently Patrick Elvin ended up saying, quote, Evander is a physical power forward who will add some much needed size and toughness to our group. We like the way he wins puck battles along the boards and handles himself in the dirty areas in front of the net. Evander moves well around the ice and has proven to be a productive goal scorer in the National Hockey League. We are excited to bring him home to Vancouver and our staff looks forward to working with him this coming season.
I mean, I did hear that if he was going to request a trade, it would only be with the Canucks, nobody else.
Right. So, Hey, he's going back home, so that's what he's up to there. But then on top of that, then there's some other trades that are going around also, and there's also some speculation at the same time. So one, the Pittsburgh Penguins are open to making a significant deal, and it's one of those they're willing to potentially trade off either the 11th or 12th round pick in the draft.
No, that's crazy. But I will tell you one piece of news that came out this week, which I think shell shocked everybody, was the deal that was made. I believe it was Monday. Yep, it was Monday around lunchtime, like 12 o'clock. My
Hmm.
lunch break, at least, was the trade that really shook the world. Was Trevor Zegras was traded to the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah.
So that trade was a big shocker because, for one, Trevor Zegras, the thing with Zegras is that he's been in speculation and rumors for at least 3 years now in
Hmm.
trade discussions. Like, he was linked to the Rangers, he was linked to the Canadians, he was linked to the Sabres at one point, he was linked to the Canucks. I mean, he was linked to a lot of teams, but the return for this trade for Anaheim was so awful that it almost makes Buffalo's return for Peterka look shittier in comparison.
Yeah.
So, to give you an idea, so Trevor Zegras was traded to the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for Ryan Paling, the 45th overall pick, which is a second rounder, and a 2026 fourth rounder to the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, not a great trade, but they got more assets that they can actually work with.
Oh man, if there's one thing I could certainly say, if there's anybody that's very happy about this trade, it's Jamie Drysdale. Because him, oh my God, Jamie Drysdale went nuts on this. Because he's like, him and Trevor go way back since they were in
Yeah.
junior, and then playing for Team USA, and then now playing in Anaheim. It's like, we ate together, we peed together, and things like
Hmm.
that. I'm like, it's like, dude, that's a little deep, okay? We
Right.
don't need to know that you swung your dicks in the men's bathroom.
Right. And then on top of it, the Minnesota Wild were active this past week because they traded center Freddie Goudreau to the Seattle Kraken for a fourth round draft pick, and he had 3 years left on his deal, worth 2.1 million. So it actually gives the Wild about 17 million worth of cap space altogether.
It's definitely a good move for sure. I mean, there's going to be a lot of activity there for sure. I mean, what more can you ask for? I have a better question. What the
Hmm.
fuck is going on in Seattle? What is with these random ass trades that they've been
I
making?
have no clue what they're up to because, like, literally, of course, you're changing coaching, you're changing your GM spot, and it's like these trades are absolute. It's like they're out of left field. It's like, what is the purpose of these trades?
Well, one is that traded Andre Burakovsky on Saturday to the Chicago Blackhawks for Joe Veleno. Another
Hmm.
one that they made on back on June 19th was that was last week was Mason Marchment to the Seattle Kraken for 2 picks from the Dallas Stars. And then and if I'm not mistaken, they made another one. I don't know if you saw this, but Frederick Goudreau got traded to the Seattle Kraken from the Minnesota Wild.
Right. Yeah, as we were just mentioning. So it's like tough to read what Seattle's doing right now.
Like, do they even have a direction?
I don't know if they do, quite honestly. Or if they do, it's like all over the place. I don't get it. It's like it's not like a clear cut way that they're doing it.
Yeah, it's not like Florida where they actually had a simple direction. Like, Seattle's just stupid. I mean, there's a good reason why Ron Francis got
Yeah,
fired.
and it's like literally, I think Seattle's just throwing darts and hoping something hits a bullseye or something.
Like, are you desperately trying to get Matty Benier as a sniper to play with? Like, what's Seattle's issue here? Oh,
Yeah,
and I don't understand. Like, sorry, Seattle's a very weird team.
yeah.
And it's to think that the Kraken of all teams are spending assets on grinders or
Hmm.
third line centers, third line wingers, fourth line centers. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And then there's actually trade rumors that are out right now too, and St. Louis is looking to well, basically, they may be trading forward Jordan Kyrou, and there's actually 4 different teams interested. And apparently, according to the fourth period, the Islanders are one of them. The Sabres are
Well,
a
yeah.
second one. Montreal and the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Well, I could definitely tell you that if Kyrie were to go to the Islanders, you could definitely throw in Noah Dobson in the deal.
Mm. And then, of course, if the Sabres were to pick him, I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck Kevin Adams is going to do because his head is so far up his ass.
Maybe trade Bullard by him.
Maybe.
But do you really need to do that?
No, and honestly, Byram is one of our best defensemen right now. Do what you can to sign him long term and just freaking keep him here for Christ's sakes.
Well, unfortunately for you, you have the modern version of Mike Milbury on your team.
Yeah, exactly.
I if
Unfortunately.
this if I was in Buffalo right now, I would just give you a hug and I would just convert you and I would just be like, "Listen, man, I'm really sorry."
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. But I will be right back. I am gonna go get some water.
All right. So with that, what we're going to also talk about too here in just a moment is the Hall of Fame players that are going to be inducted into the class for this year, and there's actually several different players that got in. Of course, former players that got in on their first year of eligibility includes Daniel Chara, Duncan Keith, and Joe Thornton. So it's good to see that. But one of the things that is, and actually, we're just moving into the Hall of Fame players for this year's class. So I just mentioned Zdeno Chara, Duncan Keith, Joe Thornton got in, and of course, one of the things that I really like, finally, after getting snubbed for all these years and decades, former Buffalo Sabre Alexander McGillney, the first to defect from the USSR, is finally in the Hall of Fame, and rightfully so. And he should have been in at least 20 years ago.
Yep, and then one for me that I'm really happy about is Big Z, Zdeno Chara, an original Islander. Two stints with the Islanders, one in the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
his career because fuckhead Milbury traded him for Alexei Yashin. God bless him. Fuck him. Fuck Mike Milbury. I will never forgive him for that.
Yeah, Yashin
But
crashed and
Big
burned
Z,
after that trade.
yep, and Big Z did come back to wrap up his career with the Islanders, so that was a nice story. So he's in the
Mhm.
Hall of Fame as well. So congrats to both Alexander McGillney and for Zdeno Chara. But there's other people that we also have to put in here. Zdeno Chara, we already said, Alexander
Mhm.
McGillney,
Yep.
but Joe Thornton, that's
Yep.
another one. Duncan Keith, that's another one. Three-time Stanley
Mm-hmm.
Cup champion
Yep.
with the Chicago Blackhawks. And then there's other ones too. You have Jennifer Botterill and Brianna Decker.
Yep.
They deserve it. Jack Parker, if you're not familiar with him, Jack Parker was the head coach of Boston University.
Yeah, got inducted as a builder, so good to see that. And then Danielle Sauvageau, who makes history as the first woman to ever be inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame as a builder. And she was also the first woman to ever coach in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League when she was named an assistant with the Montreal Rocket, dating back to the 99-2000 season. And she's actually the GM of the PWHL's Montreal Victoire, and she also coached Canada to a gold medal at the 2002 Winter Olympics. So good to see her in there.
Absolutely. I mean, all these people are very, very talented, but I'm very happy for Milk Gilney because that dude got snubbed for so many years.
Yeah, and he was so good for so many years too.
But I never understood why did they keep him out of the Hall of Fame for so long?
It's political bullshit. That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, we knew Zdeno Char was getting in there the first minute he gets in there,
Oh
but
yeah,
but I still to this day don't understand that Tom Barrasso got into the Hall of Fame before Alexander Milchioni.
yeah.
Like
It
that,
should have been the other way around.
I agree, 100%. But at least though we have two players from both sides, the Islanders and Buffalo,
Mm-hmm.
that are in the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, exactly. So good to see him finally get the nod. He absolutely deserved it. Good to see these guys in there. So congratulations to them. And then, of course, as we go into tomorrow night, as we wrap up our hockey part of the show, we're going to be live for the NHL draft. So I know this guy sitting next to me here, he's going to be at the draft party down at UBS Arena. So he'll join a little bit later. But we're going to be going on it for the entire first round as we usually do. So it'll be interesting to see what kinds of hits or absolute misses come by, and we'll see how bad Kevin Adams fucks up tomorrow.
Well, I can certainly tell you for one, I am very, very excited about going to the Islanders draft party because for one, when Lou Lamoriello was GM, they never used to do this shit, and maybe in his first year they did
Mm-hmm.
when they drafted, J.G. Pajot and Oliver Wallstrom. Those two guys, when the Islanders drafted him, that's when we had a draft party. But since then, they never did it because Lou Lamoriello said it was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But what's it called? No, this is a great time to go to this kind of event because for one, I'm getting a chance to. I actually have the schedule right here. There it is. So the doors open at 5 p.m. I get a free foam finger because I'm getting there around like 3 o'clock by train. At 5:30, there's gonna be an address attendee for like a little speech thing with Matthew Darsh as
Hmm.
GM of the Islanders. He's gonna be talking to the fans
Yep.
before the draft. And then at 5:40, there's a player and an alumni's interview. And people who I mentioned, I may have said it, was Brian Bullock, Casey Cizikas, JG Pajot. That's if he's not traded. Hopefully he doesn't at that point. Um, Scott Mayfield, Butch Corey, John Tonelli, Sean Bates, who was my favorite player growing up.
Hmm.
Eric Karen, Steve Webb, Benoit Hogue, and Dennis Seidenberg are all going to be there tomorrow. And
Nice.
then 7 p.m. is the live coverage, and obviously the Islanders will have the first overall pick tomorrow night, and they'll draft Matthew Schaefer.
Gotcha. So, yeah, it'll be interesting, tomorrow night, obviously, and then we have one more episode left before we break away for the summer, and then of course, as we mentioned a few years ago, we're rebranding for next season, and we've got some new people who will be joining us, so it'll be very interesting to see how things go on. But as for next season, we're going to be covering a lot more than just the traditional Buffalo sports. We're going pretty much everything now, so that's what we're doing. So of course, we've got more of the New York City stuff, we've got the Buffalo stuff, and of course, we have a lot more that's going to go around with it. So, of course, that being said, we're going to jump in. I was going to say, you want to do baseball first or you want to do football first?
If you flip the coin.
All right. Well, you know what? Um, well, let's do baseball last. Let's go into football. So,
All right, cool.
some fun stuff this week. Obviously, the funny story that came out. Good old Shador Sanders. Let's get this one out of the way. He got
Yeah.
arrested twice, in addition to all those other speeding tickets he had, and basically thinking that he's hot shit since the Cleveland Browns drafted him very late in the draft this year.
Yeah, so Shador Sanders broke the law twice, and they're both speeding charges. For one, he was caught speeding at 101 miles per hour, and then there was another one where he committed 91 miles per hour. Both of them took place in the month of June. He now faces fines, court days, and calls to refocus before training camp. But there's already been a report that he allegedly skipped his trial for that ticket for one of the two.
That was stupid. It's just get it done and over with, and don't skip a trial because then you have a bench warrant that gets issued.
Like it's insane, really. Like I can't get over the fact that Shador Sanders, who has this big ego, and his father, who has a big ego, now all of a sudden thinks that he's Antonio Brown. Which, oh, by the way, we gotta actually talk about Antonio Brown.
Oh
But,
Jesus!
uh,
Yeah, he's nuts.
oh yeah, big time. But Shador Sanders, I have a feeling is just gonna be a bust. It's written all over his forehead. It's
Yeah.
like it's gonna say bust, and it's gonna be tattooed like the Joker, where it says damage. It's gonna say
Hmm.
bust on his head.
Well, you see his autograph is a dollar sign.
Jesus Christ.
Like
How
how
much
he
more?
signs it, it's like, oh my god.
Like, how
So
much more do you have to pump into that? Like,
yeah,
really?
yeah. But talking about AB, oh my god, we actually talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago about how how he had a warrant for attempted murder. But what else has been going on?
Oh no, that's not all too. So yes, Tom is correct. Antonio Brown, who is wanted by the authorities in Miami-Dade County on a criminal charges of attempted murder related to a shooting at a celebrity boxing event that took place back in May, says that he officially left the country on his X account. Yeah, this dude fled the United
Yeah,
States.
that's not a good look.
He says, I'm out of the country. Ain't no more child support. Tell your mom to get a job. Brown wrote on X on that Saturday night. And
Jesus.
however, the warrant cannot be executed if Brown remains out of the United States.
So there you go. His way of evading capture.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's just more of a whack job every day.
He has CTE and he doesn't think he has an ego. And clearly it's all about him at this point. Because his whole life is surrounded by social media. And it's sad. I mean,
Hmm.
Vontaze Perfect, when he hit him in the head nearly 10 years ago,
Yeah.
that fucked up his head.
Oh yeah, it definitely did, and yeah, there's no coming back from that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but of course, here's another person that's got a lot of ego, and that is good old Aaron Rodgers. Where basically there's a lot of there's a lot of controversy here because apparently he may have lied about his marriage.
Yeah, so the rumor is that Aaron Rodgers was seen wearing a silicone ring on his left hand at mandatory minicamp for the Steelers a few weeks ago, and he said that he got married over the summer. I'm like, I understand that he's a private guy, but he never
Mm-hmm.
said that he was in a relationship with anybody. Like I know he was engaged, but then they broke up, and then it was just
Yeah.
ridiculous. And that now all of a sudden it's like, why is he lying about his marriage status? Like, is
Mm-hmm.
that such an important aspect to him?
Yeah, I don't know honestly, but you know how Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, he's one of the biggest egos out there, so he's gonna put a lot of different stuff out there. Oh, maybe he got bad ayahuasca. Who knows?
Well, it's all about him at this point. He's like, oh, I need people to pay attention to me. Like, dude, shut the fuck up and retire. But that's not all. Speaking of retirement, he
Mm-hmm.
also said on the Pat McAfee show this week, he said that this is it for him. He's going to retire after this year.
Wow, he finally decided to hang up the cleats.
Well, yeah, Ian Rappaport was the one that said that on his feed, but he went on the Pat McAfee show and he told him to his face that he was going to retire after this year. He's like, "Yeah, no, this is Professor Aaron Rodgers. I think I'm going to retire after this year because I've caused too much damage throughout my career." No
Mm-hmm.
shit.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, that being said, I mean, we know that stuff's gonna come out. There's gonna be a lot more that's gonna come out, obviously, but yeah, Rogers is just out there. But that being said, we do know that the Bengals are going to stay put in Cincinnati until 2036. They actually do have a new lease deal. They're going to get some renovations to Paycom Stadium, which that stadium does need it because we were there 2 years ago and sightlines were good, but getting around that stadium absolutely fucking sucks. In fact, actually, if you guys revisit our old Road to 32 episode from that, we had to find this one usher, which luckily she helped us, but we had to go like 6 floors down, go like a million miles around like in a maze, go all the way back up. And it still took a while to figure out where our seats were, but we finally found them.
Yeah, no, that the outside of it was gorgeous. We've said this
Yeah.
before, and
The inside
the
sucks
inside.
ass.
Oh yeah, I'm never going back. I mean, I may go back to Cincinnati for the Reds, but I'm
hmm
never going back for a Bengals game. No.
Yeah, that stadium needs work.
Oh, big time. Yeah. There's no question about that. But as far as the Bengals, this is what happens when you have an owner, Terry Pagula, or any other incompetent owner who doesn't want to spend money but is willing
hmm
to keep it at the bottom line. Terry Pagula, Mike Brown, Dick Mumford, Bob Nutting. These are just some shitty owners who don't want to put in any investment into a stadium. John Fisher for the Athletics. He's another one.
hmm Which is interesting because they did break ground on their stadium in Vegas this past week, so they finally did do that. But yeah, Paycom Stadium or Paycor, not exactly or Paycor Stadium, yeah,
Yeah.
not exactly a good stadium at all.
Yeah, I would not recommend going there, honestly.
Yeah, but that being said, also the good old commies are getting new uniforms.
Yes, this is one that's been surfacing the web lately, and that is the rumor is the Commanders could be bringing back uniforms that have some sort of resemblance of their old ones prior to the rebrand, according to the CEO of the Washington Commanders, Kevin Sheehan. And he says, I have it on a good authority that they are going to go back to something resembling the old uniforms, and that stands more recently on the Washington Redskins. So,
Good.
oh, yeah, this is what they should have done. In fact, they should have never have done this to begin with.
Right, exactly. But of course, you know what happens? They had to bend to pressure because it's all that. Oh well, you got to do what's politically best for everybody, and you can't stand on your own heritage. Yet even and I get certain things with Native Americans and so forth. I get some of the things that happened in the past, way back. But even the tribe that the Washington Commanders had been talking to, they even said you need to respect us and have the chief on there.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's really
Yeah,
not hard.
yeah, exactly. And we saw it happen in Major League Baseball. The Cleveland Indians ended up being rebranded the Cleveland Guardians. So, there was just a lot of pressure at that time to do that. And of course, everyone went fire sale with rebranding.
Maybe rebranding is probably not the best idea, especially on a political terms. Like, it's not like a rebrand like with the Coyotes
Mm-hmm.
where they relocated to another
Right.
state.
That's a
It's
totally separate issue. That's a totally separate thing.
Oh yeah, that, and you know what? That at least makes sense because you're not gonna always be called the Utah Hockey Club or the Utah No
Right.
Names.
Yeah,
You're not.
and you weren't going to be the Utah Coyotes.
No, fuck that. No, they were not gonna do that at any point in any situation.
Exactly.
But I will say is that I am happy about that rumor for Washington fans, just because they're not only getting new uniforms, they
Uh-huh.
already approved plans for a new stadium. So that's gonna be awesome.
Yes, and the new stadium will be at the former RFK Stadium, which means it's going to be very easy to get to right in DC. And there will be some tailgating. You can get there on the subway. You can drive there. Very easy to get to from the Virginia side of the border, the Maryland side of the border, or in DC itself. So that is a big step forward for them. And good for them, too. They deserve a new place.
Absolutely, without question.
Yeah,
So
because you've been to that other state, you've been to the current stadium, which was formerly FedEx Field, now known as Northwest Stadium, and I know you mentioned that stadium was a dump.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not personally the biggest fan of FedEx Field. For some reason, Brittany likes it, but aside from that, though, it's okay. I would definitely say it's definitely one of the better ones I've at least seen in recent memory, but it's really not that great.
Yeah, yeah. So
It's just decaying. That's really the problem with it.
yeah, they haven't really kept up with it. They didn't like do anything to stay with the times, really. So there's
No.
that. But on a good note, hey, the Dolphins, as you would, is if anyone who's listened to us for over 10 years on or other platforms, the Dolphins, as you would say, are the biggest log cow right now because they are a total shit show with everything going on down in Miami.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So there's been a lot of turmoil as of late with the Miami Dolphins, with Tyreek Hill running his big mouth, and then you have Kendall Lamb, who plays for the team, call them out on their bullshit and
Mm-hmm.
calling out Mike McDaniel and etc. But I do want to read where the bottom line is. So during the Fanatic Fest, yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, during Fanatics Fest at the Javits Center in New York City, because Tyreek was there. Tyreek Hill was asked about who is the least favorite team he likes. He plays against.
Mm-hmm.
Who does he playing hating against?
Right.
And he said the Bills, and he says that the Bills defense are a bunch of bitches, and yet, which is very ironic coming from him because for one, he says, "Oh, we beat the Bills all the time," and I'm like, "No, you
No, you
don't. You
don't.
don't." He's delusional.
Not even
Have a
close.
cookie. Yeah, and so not only is he delusional to buy into with the Buffalo Bills because the Bills are a much better
Mm-hmm.
team on paper for obvious
Right.
reasons, but Tyreek also made a very interesting comment about the Dolphins. He said on the culture in Miami, he said, "quote This year as one of the best leaders." I told the guys, it's time to change who we are as a team. It's time to change the narrative. I feel like this is the year that we change all of that. Really, Tyreek? Is that
Yeah.
what you're gonna go with? Are you really gonna play that card?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bottom line, Tyreek, the Bills are your daddy, so shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and what's even funnier is the comment that Kendall Lamb made. So Kendall Lamb was a lineman for the Miami Dolphins, and he compared the Dolphins to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did you
It,
read the quote? Did you see the quote that he said about this?
I did see a little bit about it, and it's absolutely hilarious. Like, really, what ended
Yeah.
up coming out.
So I'll read this to you for those who haven't seen it. So Kendall Lamb made this comment recently. He said, "quote I understand why the Eagles reached 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. Players are never late, never toxic, and after every practice, the room spent 15 minutes sharing personal struggles to stay mentally sharp. Something never got with the Dolphins."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, of course, Mike McDaniel's smoking weed half the time, and he doesn't know what the hell his team's doing.
No, again,
He has
they
no
didn't
control of
do
the team.
anything. No, and he lost the players. It's
Mm-hmm.
so obvious. I mean, I don't know what Chris Greer is doing as GM. I don't know what Mike McDaniel is doing as coach. But if there's one thing I could say with sheer confidence is the Dolphins are not going to be a Super Bowl contender with this core. They're not.
No, they're
Tua
not.
is just an Tua's an average quarterback. Tyreek Hill only went to Miami just because he wanted to prove that he was better than without Patrick Mahomes, and that
Right.
hasn't worked out so far.
Right.
He got his
He's
shit
failed.
kicked out of him.
Yeah.
He got his ass kicked in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. He did. And he hasn't even been back half the time. So basically, he should have just stayed in Kansas City because he would have actually had a few more rings by now.
Yeah, he tries to compare his Kansas City career with the Dolphins as like it was average. Like when he was at KC, okay, sure, you beat the Bills all the time, but to say that on the Miami Dolphins, he is clearly showing ignorance.
Yeah. Yeah. And straight up delusional.
Hmm.
So
I love bashing on the Dolphins.
yeah, same here. We got to do that. So, so of course. But that being said, we still got about another 20 minutes before we wrap up. So let's jump into baseball. We've got some fun stuff to talk about. And obviously, one of the big things that we want to talk about first is the Mets, because the Mets had a free fall for a while. And there's some different things that may have caused it. But that being said, at least they're snapping out of it. They've been playing well for most of the season, but yeah, that 7-game stretch was pretty rough.
Yeah, that's been kind of rough lately. Because if I'm not mistaken, the Mets lost 7 of their last 9,
Mhm.
including some games against Atlanta and Philly, and they got swept by the Rays. It's just like holy fuck. Like
Yeah.
their pitching is so like derailed at this point. Griffin
Oh,
Canning
he
might have tore
sucked
his
ass in that last go out, going out on the mound.
Griffin Canning might have just tore his Achilles tonight
Hmm.
against Atlanta. So he's fucked.
Yeah.
Kodai Senga is injured. Sean Banaya is coming back soon. Frankie Montez, who's been off the team for about 3 months now, going into the season, he
Hmm.
just came back. So the Mets are really short-handed on pitchers here. And if half of them are not back by the trade deadline in July, there's going to be a serious push to get pitchers at the deadline because you're
Right.
not going to win shit if you don't have a good pitching core.
Exactly. And it's like right now, looking at the team, they need at least 1 or 2 more pitchers to at least have somewhat of a deep rotation.
Well, I did mention German Marquez. I know that. There's been a
Hmm.
rumor about Jacob DeGrom potentially coming back. And I'm saying to myself, first off, DeGrom is 37 years old. Not to
Right.
say that I don't want him. It's just, he's not what he used to
No,
be.
he isn't. And if you're going to give him a deal, what are you going to do? Give him like a 1-year deal at the most? I mean, he's at the tail end of his career. He's not in his prime.
Is like, even if they did trade for Jacob DeGrom, this is not the one that we saw in the past where he was with, the three aces for the Mets, with Noah Syndergaard, Matt Harvey,
Hmm.
Jacob DeGrom when they went to the World
Right.
Series 10 years ago. It's not like that with Thor and the Dark Knight and then uh, and so forth, the DeGrominator. You
Yeah.
don't you're not going to get that version anymore. You're not going to get the one that won back to back to back Cy Young awards. You're just not going to get him anymore. He's too
Right.
old.
Yeah. I mean, I could see him maybe being used as a closer, and just using him as needed to fill out that rotation, but he's not the same guy he was, and you're not going to get the same production out of him.
Right, and the fact that he went and won a World Series with the Rangers. He didn't play because he was injured that year.
Right.
He did win a World Series. So I
Hmm.
give him major props for doing that, honestly.
Right.
But I just find it so hard to believe that the Mets of all teams, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea
Hmm.
because DeGrom was loved in New York with the Mets, no question.
Right.
But he's not what he was.
Yeah, and there's no bringing him back to what he was either. It's just not going to happen.
I know they tried that with Justin Verlander, and they tried it with Max Scherzer, and both
Hmm.
of them got traded.
Yeah, and I mean Scherzer had a little bit of a resurgence, but he's not the same that he was either.
No, not a chance.
So it is just absolutely crazy.
But speaking of the pitching, the Mets did bring in a pitcher, and they signed him to a major league deal recently, and he just got out of a minor league contract with the Twins, and he got called up by the Mets. His name is Dickie Lovelady. That's his name.
That's a nice name.
Yeah. His real name is Richard Lovelady, but he says, no, call me Dickie. Dickie Lovelady.
Oh, that could be taken in so many wrong ways.
that could be used in so many aspects. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yikes.
And on top of all that, not only are the Mets looking for pitchers, the Mets are also listed in like half of the rumors in the trade deadline. And the following people that are the Mets are being listed to, according to Jeff Passan and Kylie McDaniel, they both said that Alex Bregman, Cedric Mullins, Aroldis Chapman, Luis Robert, Luis Severino, and
Mm.
Reed Detmers are all available for the Mets.
Ooh, okay. So Aroldis Chapman, he can still throw 100 plus, and he's in his late 30s, and I can see him being a pretty effective closer in a lot of situations.
Right. But Bregman's going to be tough because Mark Vientos is coming back pretty soon.
Right.
So that's that. So I wouldn't count out Bregman for that. I mean, yeah, the Red Sox are shit. Don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but uh, yeah, you're not getting Bregman. I'm sorry.
Right, right.
Mullins. Do you really need another outfielder? I
Probably
mean,
not.
you got Nemo, you got McNeil, you got Soto. I mean, do you
Yeah,
really
I
need
mean,
him?
you're pretty well covered on that.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless you give up like McNeil or one of those guys, I don't see Cedric Mullins come back. Aroldis Chapman, I agree with you. He would be a great closer for the
Hmm.
Mets if they were to pick him up in a trade.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And the way he was pitching with Pittsburgh when he was there most recently, and then of course with Cincinnati, I mean, he's still got it. He can still throw it really hard and really fast, and he's still very effective.
yeah. Luis Robert, definitely the best player on the Chicago White Sox, and I can certainly say another outfielder.
Hmm.
But the question is, I said this about Cedric Mullins. I don't see this happening either. I think that in order for it to happen, either McNeil or Nemo would have to get hurt, or
Hmm.
Soto, knock on wood. You know, just doing that for that
Right.
cause. Severino, yeah, no, you're not getting Severino
No.
back either. You just signed him to an extension with the Athletics, and he left the
Right.
Mets for more money, and he's probably regretting that.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's probably not, like you said, he's probably not coming back.
Yep, and the last one is Reed Detmers, who is a left-handed pitcher for the Blue Jays.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it definitely is. But the one that I've heard the most was Jared Duran. Jared Duran is one of the best hitters in all of baseball, and he's the face of the franchise for the Boston Red Sox. And speaking of Bregman, because I mentioned him earlier,
Hmm.
he is also allegedly saying that Alex Bregman is open to negotiating a new contract with the Sox to stay in Boston long term. And if the Red Sox approach Bregman, he will listen.
Okay, so anything can happen. It's just the only thing I'm thinking though. I mean, outfield, they're pretty well stacked at this point, unless someone gets hurt, which hopefully it doesn't happen. That's where I would see that possibly coming into play. But I would just say, if the Mets had to go really after anybody first, I would almost try to make a run at Chapman and see if they can land him for like a 1 or 2 year deal.
Maybe, but I think if I'm looking for a pitcher, I'm going to German Marquez from the Colorado Rockies. That's who I would look at.
I mean, and honestly, Marquez would probably be the better long term pick between those, just because of the fact younger, and he still has a lot of the intangibles that you want.
Exactly. And the Mets could use some bullpen help. You're not
Hmm.
going to win the World Series with just mediocre pitchers. And
Right.
Griffin Canning has been having a good year. And the fact that he may have tore his Achilles and he's out for the year, the Mets are already missing like 3 or 4 pitchers. It's nuts.
Right. And then it's like you figure Senga gets hurt every year, so now it's like okay, you're down with him again.
Yeah, no. It's David Sterling. David Stearns has to do something about this because at that point, Stearns is probably going to be looking at that roster, and he probably knows that, hey, I need to get some pitching help here. I can't win a World Series for these guys if I don't do anything about that
Hmm.
bullpen or that rotation. You're just
Exactly.
not. You just can't do anything about it if you don't approve it. But I do, no doubt in my mind, I do expect the Mets to be very active at the trade deadline in the end of the month. Not
Hmm.
in June, but in July. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, of course, of course. And then looking at it, going to the other side of the country here, the San Francisco Giants are going to honor Barry Bonds, and there is going to be a new statue unveiled of him soon outside of Oracle Park.
Yep, and it is being said by its Giant CEO Larry Bear, he said on 9:57 the game that there is a statue of Barry Bonds coming, and he said that the statue is on the radar and it is coming, and that's all I could say.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
See,
So
like, yeah, Barry Bonds is the all-time leader in home runs, but I feel like he doesn't deserve it in a sense, just because of the steroid use.
right, of course, well, it's almost like looking at Mark McGuire back in the day too. I mean, he was on roids when he ended up having that home run record. So it's like, similar stuff to Barry Bonds. If you look at him early in the career versus now, versus where he was at the end of his career, holy crap, he bulked up.
Yeah, I think Sammy Sosa too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the good old steroid era.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, but
But I'm just not a fan of the idea of Barry Bonds getting a statue just for his accomplishments because he was a pretty shitty person in general.
oh yeah, a lot of people still think he is. So
Of
so that's
course.
a huge thing. But Cal Raleigh is also in the news, and there's actually a couple of different things. I mean, part of it's with the All Star Game voting. He actually had a really good series with Seattle where he got his major league leading 31st homer the other night.
Yeah, and Cal Raleigh, and as you know, I was in Seattle back in May
Mm-hmm.
for my trip to Alaska, and I got to see Cal Raleigh play. That guy could fucking hit. Like he really he can hit those
Mm-hmm.
balls like there's no tomorrow. Like he's easily the best catcher in baseball, and he's definitely the leading home run hitter among everybody. This dude
Mm-hmm.
has more home runs than the White Sox have runs combined.
Yeah,
Really think about that.
yeah, it's crazy. He's having a great year. And even there is actually something that just came out about 10 minutes ago. So Kel Rowley is going to be taking over as catcher after Mitch Garver left the game against the Twins.
Wow, look at that. And not only that, he also has now passed Johnny Bench for the most home runs by a catcher before the All Star break. And he holds the switch hitter record too, as well, which is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, Seattle's backstop is really rewriting the record books here with an ever swing that fat tub of lard does. And Cal Raleigh, man, he is having a hell of a season. There is
Yeah,
no question.
yeah. So how he ended up going in to be a catcher in relief, basically, what happened is that Mitch Garver ended up getting injured. He was hit in the mouth by a foul ball tip in the fifth inning and basically didn't return. So then, of course, they had to move Raleigh into the catching spot. So basically, Garver's out day to day, but in the meantime, uh, Raleigh's going to be behind the plate.
It's crazy, really. I mean, I would never have thought that a catcher would be the leading scorer among home runs
Yeah,
of everybody. He
right.
has more home runs than fucking Shohei Ohtani right now. He has more home runs than Juan Soto.
Yeah, and the thing is right now with him moving from DH to catcher, Jorge Polanco is going to take Cal Raleigh's spot at the DH.
And what's even crazier too is he's also has more home runs than Aaron Judge.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. Oh, hey, Bronx Bombers, how do you like the fact that you don't have Juan Soto anymore?
Yeah,
You're
they're.
still butthurt about that.
Oh yeah, and they say the Mets are in a free fall. Look at the Yankees. The Yankees are in a bigger free fall than
Yeah,
the
they've
Mets
been
right
playing
now.
like ass all year.
Yeah, and the only reason why the Yankees are not discussed as much is because the Mets are there. That's it.
Yeah, it used to be the other way around. Now it's like the Mets are your bitch, Yankees.
And you know what's even scarier is the Rays are a game and a half back of the Yankees for the AL
That
East.
is crazy.
Yeah, so check this out. So I'm gonna read this to you. So this is the AL East. So you have the Yankees at 46-34 with their percentage of .575. And they right now are 4-6 in their last 10, and they have won one game so far. The
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay Rays are 46-35 with a .568 winning percentage, and they are 0.5 games back of the Yankees, and they went 7-3, and they won 3 in a row in their last 10.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. The fact that Tampa actually clawed their way back.
Yeah, and the Red Sox are not doing that bad either. The Jays are not doing that bad. The only ones in the AL East that are doing so abysmal this year are the Orioles.
Yeah, and who would have thought that would have been happening?
I didn't think that was going to happen in general. I
Yeah,
guess, losing Corbett Burns sucks because
yeah, it
Corbett Burns
does.
is a damn good pitcher.
Yes, he is, and that hurt them in a lot of ways.
it hurt their bullpen for sure. But no, I just find it hypocritical that Yankees fans believe that their team is fine, but yet they have all these hitters and all these stars, but
Hmm.
you're on the verge of slipping the AL East lead of a team that doesn't have as equal amount of stars as you do.
Yeah. And it's just absolutely nuts with where they're at this point. I mean, the bottom line is the Yankees are not going to do anything. Right now, the biggest hope in New York City is for the Mets to actually have another good run this year, which they very well are positioned to do.
Well, right now they're beating the Atlanta Braves 4-0 in the bottom of the eighth, which is awesome.
Good, good. And that's how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane, really. Like I can't fathom this because the Mets were legitimately not even a week ago. People were saying like this was the end of the world. They were going to miss the playoffs and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like they started to get better with their pitching and their batting, and it's just
Yep.
like Juan Soto started to light it up, which is what exactly he was there to be, doing. He got
Yeah.
paid 765 million to do that, and he
Mm-hmm.
didn't do shit in the beginning of the year. He's a slow starter, and then he starts to pick up on it. And I think
Yep.
anybody who knew like baseball, people knew that Juan Soto was going to catch up.
Right. And he did. He got out of that slump, and he's been playing great as of late. I mean, I was going to say, what, in the last few games, he's had, what, at least 4 homers?
Yeah, I think he had two last night. And he had two the night before, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Yeah, I definitely saw the one that he crushed the other night, where he basically just like, yeah, it's like, of course, take this one. He's like, oh, you just get to watch it go over and take that nice little walk.
He's so good. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he is. He is. And you know what? For the last few minutes, let's talk about the All Star game coming up because we're not too far away from it.
Yes, that is true. It actually starts, I think, in the mid-teens in July, which is not far off. But let me ask you a question. Did you fill out your All-Star ballot yet?
I haven't, so that's one
I
thing I
did.
still got to do.
I did. And you better do it quick because that thing's not going to be there forever.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
I'll tell you. So I'll tell you my list of who I have on my ballot because I
Okay.
kept it. So I'm gonna read you all the positions and who
Mm-hmm.
I put in the American League and the National League. In first base, I have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and I have Pete Alonso,
Okay.
respectable.
Good choices.
Second baseman, I have Andres Jimenez and Ozzy Albies. So I got
Okay.
that. Third base, I have Alex Bregman and Manny Machado.
Okay. Nice choices.
And then for shortstop, I have Bobby Witt Jr. and Francisco Lindor.
Okay. Cool.
And then for the outfield, I have three of them on each side. So the first set of outfielders, I have Nick Castellanos and
Mm-hmm.
I have Jaron Duran.
Okay.
And then I have PCA with Pete Crow Armstrong,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, I should mention the Mets should have never have traded him in the first place.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a sore spot for everybody.
Yeah, so Pete Crow Armstrong and Aaron Judge. That's pretty respectable.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, George Springer and Juan Soto.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, that's a pretty good lineup right there.
Yeah, and then I have two more. I have a designated hitter and I have catchers. So for my catchers, I'm going with Carson Kelly from the Chicago Cubs, and
Mm-hmm.
then I went with Cal Raleigh.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we were just talking about Raleigh also, and again, great pick.
yep. And for my designated hitters, I have Jock Peterson and Rafael Devers.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. So that's who I have in my lineup.
Yeah, that's a good lineup.
Absolutely. Yeah, but no. Yeah, no, I'm just excited that baseball is in full swing with the Mets. They're finally getting their heads out of their ass, which they should have done a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
But better late than ever, I suppose.
Yeah, true story. At least they're doing something about it. They're making something work. And that's what they need to do. And now they just have to get that consistency going again. And as long as they do, then they're going to be fine. I mean, they have a lot of good things to look forward to when it comes to that.
Absolutely. And the score just came in. The Mets shut out the Braves 4-0.
All right, perfect. So all is right in the world again.
Yep. So and the Phillies, I think, got swept by Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Let's see what they
No,
got
they
going on with that.
no, they got swept by the Astros.
Ooh, okay.
God damn.
Yeah. Yeah, the Astros have been all over the place this year too. Yeah, so actually if you want a couple of the scores from tonight. So The A's got smoked by Detroit 8-0. So there's a big shutout of the night. Cleveland lost to Toronto 6-0. Minnesota actually beat Seattle 10-1. Tampa ends up beating Kansas City 4-0, and that was after Kansas City had a win the other night. Philly ended up losing to Houston 2-1. St. Louis ended up losing to the Chicago Cubs 3-0, and basically from there, if we're looking at some of the other scores, 3-1 the Dodgers ended up beating Colorado. That's no surprise. Holy shit! The Miami Marlins beat the San Francisco Giants 12-5.
And on top of all that, with the win over the Braves, the Mets are now back in first place in the NL East.
Yeah. For a while they were tied in second. So
yeah, because they had to deal with their shitty play as of late, and they had to deal with the Phillies for a little while.
Yep. So it's good stuff either way. I mean, they're back on top. Ohtani ends up getting the most Phase 1 All-Star votes in the NL, so he's going to start at the DH position. Judge is leading all the vote getters to seal his 7th career All-Star game, so that's where he's at there. And I would say... And actually, if anyone wants to see a really good bench clearing brawl, take a look at the Cardinals and the Cubs earlier today after the final out, because there was some fisticuffs thrown there. But otherwise, I think we covered a lot in an hour and a half. So, we went through a lot of major news. Obviously, we're going to be here for the draft tomorrow night, so join us.
Oh, well, actually, we have some breaking news. I do not mean to do this. Wait. Oh, wait a minute. What the fuck is this? Oh, wait. Never mind. Sorry.
Okay. No, we're good.
I got a notification from my other page on Twitter, but it's fake, so don't worry about it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so of course, we covered a lot tonight, and what's going to happen is we're going to be here for the draft tomorrow night. You'll get our reactions. You'll see a lot of different things as we have everybody here. Of course, Jamie Benn has actually just signed a 1-year contract to stay with the Dallas Stars, and Mitch Marner is likely going to hit the market, according to Toronto's GM.
Oh, actually, this time for real, they actually have some news from David Pagnotta from the 4th period. He just reported that New York Islanders are looking at adding a pick somewhere between the ranges of 5, 6, and the 7th range. And that likely means they want James Higgins, and they may even make a move with either the Utah Mammoth or the Chicago Blackhawks.
Ooh, okay. Well, that'll be interesting to see what happens between tonight and tomorrow, because, of course, the draft is only about 22 hours away from now. So, of course, we'll be here 8 o'clock tomorrow night. We'll be here for a while. And, of course, you can watch us on YouTube, and we'll have our Facebook feed going as well. But other than that, just the last story I can think of tonight, and this is actually something that came out of San Jose, and I'm surprised I didn't think about this earlier, but Edward Vlasic has been placed on waivers, and he is going to be bought out. So he played his entire 19-year career with the Sharks. He's going to be a UFA on July 1st if he's unclaimed. He had 1 season left on his 8-year, $56 million deal, which was $7 million average annual value. So basically, Vlasic, his playing days might be done.
Yeah, I think he's done. I mean, unless he says, I want to play one more season with a cup contender and signs with a team like Florida, then I could definitely see it happen. I mean, we don't really know yet, but we'll see. I mean, if Pickles ends up going to another contender for 1 more year, then I could see it. But if he doesn't, then yeah, you could definitely call it a future Hall of Fame career. Yeah. And, that's pretty much you could say about that.
Yeah. 100%. So of course we'll keep an eye out on some of the other stories, especially if the New York Rangers decide to do anything with that pick and try to move up or make any changes to it.
Actually, they already made a decision.
Okay.
They gave up the 12th pick to Pittsburgh, so they're gonna let the Penguins have this pick, and then the Rangers will get next year's first.
Okay. All right. So we've got some movement already, and of course, as we go through to the draft tomorrow, we'll have some more news and everything coming up. So, of course, keep it on our Facebook page and follow us on X if you haven't already done so. But in the meantime, if you want to check out some of our older stuff, go to YouTube, go to Spotify. You can download our episodes, of course. And he'll be at the draft party tomorrow night, so he'll join us a little bit later in the show. But we'll have a good group with us, and we'll talk about what's happening. So, of course, join us tomorrow night. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks for joining us as usual, and we'll see you next time.
See you at the draft.